So, the past few years, it has come to us as leaders that if we work with a theme that God puts on our hearts, it usually syncs up with some of the other things that are going on in people's lives. So a number of years ago, we took on this theme of hope, and we spent a whole year, 52 Sundays, working with the concept of hope. After that, we spent some time with just Jesus, talking about what the Lord wants to do in our lives by just considering who Christ is. The Hope series brought us to 1 Corinthians, the end of 1 Corinthians 13. Faith, hope, and love are the only things that last, and the greatest of these is love. And so this year we decided to pick up faith and love because we had done hope. Last week we talked about faith. This week I want to speak one more time about love and be as clear as I can about God's love promise and plan for our lives. God has a plan and a promise to love us in a particular way, and sometimes we miss this, I guess is what I want to come to. Our theme verse this year has been this, Galatians 5, chapter 5, verse 6. And I just encourage you to open, if you brought your Bible, to open it. If you don't have this verse marked in your Bible, you really need to mark the end of this verse. I'm going to read it for you. It's an extraordinary verse because when we understand who Paul is and how Paul has done his exacting work, he really summarizes everything here in Galatians 5, verse 6, the very end, where he says, the only thing that counts, some guy in the Bible, the only thing that counts. Wow. I mean, that's defining, isn't it? The only thing that counts is faith expressing itself through love. Paul could have said words expressing themselves in love, like I love you. Works, I brought you flowers today. Knowledge, faith expressing itself in knowledge, but none of those things would work. And my suspicion is it's because we don't really understand the kind of love that God is talking about here. So the question is easy this morning. How does love work? And I want to summarize that in the next 20 minutes or so and really talk to us about how this comes together. Here's the clue. Love must be received and given. Any sense in which love becomes something that is received only, I need, you're going to find that that doesn't work. And any place where love is defined as only given, you give, both of those destroy the principle of love as God has called us to use it. So here's my illustration about love. Love is very much like the water that we drink on the planet. It starts as salt water out in the oceans. The clouds start to formulate. They draw most of that water that is undrinkable into the ocean, up into the clouds. The clouds come over the land and leave fresh rain and snow in the mountains, lakes, rivers. And then all of that water is used, and then it goes out the LA River and into Long Beach, where it's all stinky and dirty again, and the whole process starts over. You see, that water is constantly being given, and it's being received. And it's going back and forth. And in a world that God created to last for a very long time, there should be enough water. It should cleanse itself, and it should work. This is how love is supposed to work with us. So as we get started this morning, keep in mind that God's love plan, and promise is not the wimpy kind of sentimental love that you and I are used to, that the culture talks about. You know, all we need is love. Now, that is actually true. But it's not all we need is, hey, we're all on the bus, we're having a good time, everything feels good. Love. Kind of an emotional, touchy-feely, you know, we coexist with people, we tolerate certain things, we provide, you know, correct ways in which we will talk with each other. God's love plan and promise for us is both strong and compassionate. What I mean by that is it's strong because it's vital, it's eternal, it's attractive, and it's vigorous. And you're going to see this. God's love is going to mean something to you before you leave today. I can guarantee you, if you keep those ears open, God's love wants to do something today. Stir something, remind something, direct something. I'm with Ron. Those dry bones are going to start with some of my dry bones, okay? And that's what it's supposed to do. It's also compassionate, it's robust, it's accepting, it's welcoming, it's healing, it's life-changing. Keep in mind one other thing, that while we're studying the gospel of Jesus, we're studying it from the book of Isaiah in the Old Testament that was written 700 years before Jesus was born. This language, okay? And these events. And so if you put that together, you're beginning to see, you know, a lot of people want to cut up the Old Testament as fire and brimstone. And what we're going to read today about love comes out of the Old Testament. It has always been. It was always there for us to understand. God's love gives the Son. Listen to this, verse 6. For unto us a child is born. To us a son is given. The government, we'll talk about the government in just a minute, will be on his shoulders. And he will be called Wonderful Counselor, Mighty God, Everlasting Father, Prince of Peace. Okay, so here's what I want you to think about. This is my gripe against the wimpy love theory of our culture. For God so loved the world that He gave. Okay? God sacrifices Himself so that you can know eternal love. God goes first. God gives up His Son, a part of His self, and sacrifices. Love in our culture is all about how I feel. And pretty soon, if I don't feel loving with the people that I'm around, I'm gone. Because we don't have love anymore. It's not there. We haven't even begun. God says love is understood through your sacrifice. Did you sacrifice for that person that you don't feel love for anymore? I mean, really? Continually sacrifice? See, this is huge. God begins by self-sacrifice in such a way that we can know that we have been loved. Filling a hole in our lives that can't be filled in any other way. Look at the character of this love. Because God's love gives the Son, which is the Prince of Peace. Wonderful Counselor. He could have been snarky counselor, right? When are you guys going to get your act together? You know what you're supposed to do. 30 years of ministry, God sacrificing His Son. All of this is in this contagious, overwhelming love in behalf of our lives. Mighty God. He could have been vengeful God. You step out of line, see that hole in the earth? It's going to swallow you up. You're done. You're toast. Later. This is We're talking about a God here who's a mighty God. How about everlasting Father? How about, in our culture, absentee Father? I'm done with being a father. See, everywhere we go and everywhere our culture defines love, there's something missing except where God has stepped up and said, I go first. Do you want to experience my self-sacrificing love deep in your life? Then you got to quit wigging out and using a worldly definition of what love is, and receive the love that God gives unconditionally, and give the love that God gives to you, to others, unconditionally. Even the really stinky people. There is no joy unless it's flowing through your life. Just think of what your life would be like if, under the conditions that you do not give love to people in your life, God said, okay, done here. But see, we've broken all the same conditions with God, haven't we? This is a reality check. We want others to treat us the way we want to be treated until they don't, and then we want to treat them back the way they treated us that we didn't like, but we're somehow superior for telling them that. This is what happens when love becomes distorted into some kind of feeling instead of this amazing plan and promise for our lives. And there's a bit of a responsibility here for the Prince of Peace. The government will be on his shoulders. Let's talk about that. So the next verse, verse 7. Of the increase of his government, peace, there will be no end. He, talking about Jesus, will reign on David's throne. David was King David. And Jesus' lineage is marked all the way back, those 700 years, to David himself. With justice and righteousness from time on forever, and with zeal, the Almighty Lord will accomplish this. God's love fulfills its promise. So I started making a list of governments and asking, so how well does Washington, D.C., or the Kremlin, or even the Vatican, for that matter, how well do those governments fulfill their promises? You see? Where does that take us? Check out this word. Reign. He will reign. In other words, part of God's love promise plan is that we trust that God knows what God is doing right now, regardless of what you read in the newspapers, or see on the news, or think in your neighborhood. That there's an effective work of God's love when we say, you are Lord, I get to rest. My family problems, my insecurities, and all of that stuff, you see, rest in the hands of a loving God. Notice this, that the justice and the righteousness and the zeal is not ours, it's God's. God pays for the injustice of the world, which includes all those bad guys out there and the rest of us, because we've sinned as bad as they have. That cross and that God who's coming, who has prophesied 700 years before he came that he would do this, has taken care of it. It is Jesus' sense of justice. It is Jesus' righteousness. You know what I love about the gospel? Jesus doesn't grab a bunch of snarly people up and then give them a piece of paper and say, now start acting like this. You're with me. Come on. Right? Don't embarrass me when we go to church today. All right? He just says, if you would walk in my shadow, you'll become holy like me. Isn't that amazing? How many people are trying to read some book, pray some prayer to get holy when God's saying, I've done this. The last one I didn't mention, His righteousness. The third one is His zeal. God's zeal for your holiness is better than any motivation program you're going to get on, the afternoon talk show programs on your TV. And all those motivational people. If you want something sturdy to rely upon, the zeal of Jesus will make you more holy than your zeal to be holy. The power of Christ will heal you more than you want to be healed. The authority, which we're going to talk about next, the government of God will work better than any government you're currently leaning on. If we believe and live that God's promise, love, promise, and plan is already in place for you. And all you and I have to do is relax and move into it. We're going to talk about how we do that. The other thing that's really phenomenal about fulfilling the promises is that He does it through David to the rest of us. I love this about God. God sets up a lineage through the family of King David and brings it, in fact, King David's family, the last that we know of his lineage, goes all the way back to Rahab, the prostitute in Jericho. But she had the smarts. She was a smart lady, said, I'm going to work with the spies of Israel because I think they have something going on. So Jesus' great-great-great-great-great-great-great-great-great-great-great-great-great-great-great-grandmother was a prostitute. And out of that lineage came, God does things with people wherever. If somehow you thought that God couldn't do something for you this morning because you're all that, I'm just asking you to give that up. Just let that old snake just cut its head off and let it go. Because something's going on here. This lineage of David tells us that God wants it relational. God can pick out a person like David and his family, going back to Rahab and all the way to Jesus, and say, I am doing this personally. I'm using people's names. I want you to understand, if you're a believer this morning, your name is written in the book of life. But you may not be related. Oh, there I am. I'm not going to have to yell anymore. I'm going to have some voice this afternoon. But you may not be relating to God, and you might be wondering where God is. You're saved, but are you experiencing God when it really gets tough in your life? Is that an opportunity to experience God, or is it, oh man, life's hard for me? We're going to get there. So through David, all of this happens. Which means that once it got to David's family, you know what? God's so cool that He doesn't let it rest there. Because not only did it get to David's family and got all over them, it's now all over us. And it's all over anyone in the whole world that wants to stick their needy hand up and say, man, I want what he's talking about today. I need that, which is also part of His plan, but I'm way ahead of myself, and I'm determined I'm not going to get lost this service like I did in the last service. Okay? God's love established a throne. What do you think of when you think of throne? Game of Thrones? Well, you think of someone sitting on that throne, and they've got all that power. Of course, they believe in the golden rule. He who has the gold rules, right? But that's what we think of. They have this absolute power. They can push people around. They've got the say. They're the person that makes it all work. Of course, it's never enough for them. They got to keep doing stuff, to keep it all going. But I did a word study on the word throne because I thought, that's interesting. Had never done that before. You'll know this part, but it's powerful anyway. The throne is the seat of authority. This is where the king sits. This is where the priest sits. This is where the judge sits. But here's what you don't know. That I didn't know. Maybe you know. That the throne is the place in which one sits who is honorable. A lot of unhonorable people sit on many, many thrones. I'm getting a witness. I'm getting a covenant amen. That's your heads are doing. I'm not getting an Eva amen, because Eva would say, hallelujah. Yeah. See? Come on. Yes. It's honorable. Jesus is the only honorable authority in the universe. I love this about our Lord, because he could be so powerful, but he never had to get the byline right in the newspaper so he got credit. He was usually way out of town when they figured out they were healed. He had changed the whole world before and most of them thought he was still dead. They weren't sure he was alive. His own disciples said, wow, that was a wasted 3 years. Until all of a sudden, what's happened? An honorable king. You see, God works in relationship. It doesn't matter if Jesus has power in your life, if Jesus has to force it, and he has no honor that drives you to your knees and says, I want what God has. I want what Jesus has for me. Because if he could just grind you to it, well, then that would be like work or any of the other things that we just kind of get ourselves through, and I want to talk about that in a minute too. You see, this whole thing works not by law or by might, because that would destroy it. It's got to work because we follow someone who has given themselves for us, is honorable, and can offer us something that we've never had. So let me tell you how this works. I tried to really boil this down, but let me tell you, this is how it works. This is how love works. In a difficult, cruel, twisted, dysfunctional, antagonistic world, this is how it works. Two very important things are revealed and exposed in a terrible world. And the first is this. Antagonism underscores our limits. There's nothing you can do about it. It's just the fat cats are going to get in a big, skip loader and just push their garbage right over the top of us and mow our houses down and our children, and there's nothing you can do about it. You just got to take it, because that's what the man's going to do. That's the world you live in, okay? We're not that far from the cruelty of the Roman world in which Jesus lived, and they just hung you on a cross, took care of you that way. It reveals that we have our limits, but it also exposes this, God's capacity, because God in our lives can either change the plans of those in authority or make our lives so sweet relationally with Jesus that if no other change happens, I'm at peace with Jesus. And you, if you haven't or if you don't, or if you occasionally experience that, but you want that 24/7, there's a way to make that happen. You see, the world exposes the fact that I can't, God can. And at every crossroad, you get to say, I will let him, or I'm going to do this on my own. And you just get to the end of the day and ask yourself, how did that work? How much peace did it bring you? How much joy did it bring you? Complaining all about that trip to Stockton on the way home. Why not just, why not just go to Babylon, do whatever you got to do, be a little salt and light while you're there. We sang that song too. And then just get in your fat little car and come home. And sing praises coming and going. God's saying, I've got that world for you. I've got that hope for you. But if we're still waiting for the raise or the 401k or the Dow Jones to get 34,000, it's not going to get us there, folks. We have an opportunity to shift the reality right now with God, right where we're at, understanding completely and totally who we are and what we do. I talk to people every week now about how terrible the world is, almost on a weekly basis. I've come to really enjoy this very esoteric verse of Jesus's. Just write this down and check it out today. Luke 23:31. Jesus is on his broken up knees because he's trying to carry a cross on his back where all the flesh has been ripped off. And he's dragging this cross up a hill because he's hoping they would just kill him and get him over this. And a group of women stop him along the Via Dolorosa and they're praying, oh Lord! And they wipe his face and they give him a cup of cold water. And this is what he tells them. Ladies, weep for yourself and get that right. If they do this, if men do these things when the tree is green, what will happen in the day of dry wood? That dry bones, that dry wood, it's getting drier. Unless we're getting close to Christ, who's getting is greener. And the greener you are, the more flexible you are. Are you getting more flexible today? I'm not talking about all your bones and all that. Are you just in your brain, or are you dying of hardening of the categories? You see? Are you just getting further into the convictions of I'm angry, I'm upset, and I need those people to do this and that and this, or is something happening that draws you into that relationship? Let's talk about our IQ. IQ, that's how smart you are. I was thinking the other day, just kind of popping online there and taking one of those IQ tests, but I'm afraid I've lost a few points on the way there, so I really don't want to see that, okay? So let's go somewhere else, okay? Pastor Jeff's IQ, I think it's going south. I don't think it's going north. But here's what got my attention, was my EQ. My experience quotient, not my intelligence quotient. And then I found this very interesting way in which you could establish where your EQ is. Ask yourself this question and give yourself some time. How do you pray? How you pray, how you talk to God, tells you how your EQ, your experience with God, is going. Do you pray for results, needs, concerns, troubles, circumstances, and situations? You've got to do that. I get that. But if that's all you do, if that's the consummation, if you get there even, At the end of the day, you know, the hospital room, and the doctor looks up at the family and says, all we can do is pray. And Uncle Charlie in the back says, is it come to that? So some of us don't even get to the result prayer. But when was the last time you checked on the son's work in China in a home where there's a house church where they're being persecuted? Hey, Lord, how's your work going with Muslims in